you think your life is about you. And your life has nothing to do with you. Your life is about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. And when you understand that, and when you live your life according to that clarity and with that understanding, everything will change.
Hallo Herz, schön, dass du eingeschaltet hast. Ich bin Nadine Gerhardt und dieser Podcast ist mein absolutes Herzensprojekt, um dich zu inspirieren auf deinem ganz individuellen Weg zu mehr Fülle, Liebe und Lebensfreude. Hallo Sonnenschein, wie schön, dass du wieder dabei bist bei einer neuen Folge von Heiter bis Sonnig mit mir, Nadine Gerhardt, und heute mit einem ganz, ganz besonderen Interviewgast, und ich kann dir gar nicht sagen, wie sehr ich mich darüber freue, denn es war auf meiner Bucketlist ganz weit oben und es ist für mich ein ganz besonderer Mensch und ich verspüre diese Demut und diese Liebe, die er in sich trägt. Und wow, dieser Podcast hier ist ja noch nicht mal 4 Monate jung und dementsprechend, als die Zusage direkt schon nach 2 Monaten Podcasten kam, ich bin über eine Stunde einfach nur durch die Wohnung getanzt, weil ich so happy war darüber. Und ja, heute ist kein geringerer zu Gast als Neale Donald Walsch. Und der Name, der spricht schon Bände, und er hat ganz viele Bücher geschrieben, absoluter Bestseller, Autor, und sein bekanntestes Buch Gespräche mit Gott wurde allein 15 Millionenfach weltweit verkauft, und das ist der absolute Hammer, dass er heute zu Gast ist. Er hat auch ein neues Buch geschrieben. Das heißt auf Englisch The God Solution. Das kann ich euch nur ans Herz legen. Auch darüber werden wir sprechen. Und ja, ich erzähle gar nicht viel weiter, sondern ich wünsche dir einfach ganz, ganz viel Spaß mit diesem ganz besonderen Interview, mit diesem wundervollen Mann. Herzlich willkommen, Neale Donald Walsch. First of all, thank you very much for agreeing to the interview. I can hardly put into words how much that means to me.
Well,
Yes.
I'm very glad. I'm very glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. It's wonderful to have a moment to share with you where I can help people learn more about what I've experienced in my life. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Neale, you are a person with a huge heart, and you are an international best-selling author and have written, I think it's 39 books that have been translated into 37 languages and sold millions of times. Your best-known book is Conversations with the God, which has shaped my life very much. It was sold 15 million times alone. That's a lot, and that's amazing. Today, we are talking about your latest book, The God Solution, which, by the way, is terrific. I've read it. And you have a really great 25-part Amazon Prime series called Conversations with Neale. And I saw the film adaptation of your life, which also touched me very much. And what I appreciate and admire about you so much is this deep humility and love that you carry within you, and also the way in which you serve humanity. And what I perceive is that you are not speaking from the intellect, but from a level that is much deeper and that speaks out of experience. And can you please tell us how life or how God brought you there?
Well, everything was going wrong in my life. First of all, let me thank you for those very kind words. I'm not sure I deserve half of that, but I'm going to let it go and pretend that I do. Let me say that my life really was falling apart on all 3 levels. My career had reached a dead end. My health was failing as well. Then I had an automobile accident in which I actually broke my neck in a car accident. And so I was left with a therapeutic device that I had to wear on my neck for almost 2 years, for about 19 months. because I couldn't move my head without wearing this therapeutic device. So it was a very, very challenging time in my life. And at the same moment, my relationship with my significant other person was also failing and falling apart. So nothing was going well in my life. And so finally, I just fell to my knees one day and I asked God, what do you want from me? What have I done to deserve a life of such continuing struggle? And what does it take to make life work? So obviously, there's something I don't understand. Please help. And I was angry, and I was pleading with God. And so that's what began the experience that I had, because as it happened, there was a tablet, a yellow legal pad on the coffee table in front of me. So I began writing an angry letter to God in which I asked all those questions. What does it take to make life work? I don't know who I thought I was writing to. I was really just writing to get it, just to get it off my chest, just to get my anger out of my system. But I thought, well, if there is a God, at least God will know that I'm trying to communicate and writing these things to get my thoughts out. And that's when I began receiving answers to the questions that I was asking. And so I began writing down what I was hearing in my mind's ear, and I was hearing these answers. So I was just writing them down. You must know that I never in a million years imagined that anyone else would ever see these answers. It never occurred to me. I thought I was journaling, just keeping a diary. And so I wrote down the answers that I was receiving, even though many of the answers seemed outrageous and, spiritually revolutionary, and violated everything I had been taught as a child about God and about religion and about how life works. But I wrote all this stuff down because I never thought anyone would ever see it. I wouldn't have to answer to anybody. But then, in the middle of this dialogue that I was having, a very private, sacred dialogue, I was told, you will make of this a book, and it will be accessed by many, many people. Many people will read it. And I thought to myself, now I'm going to find out whether this experience I'm having is real or not, because this was the first thing I was told that was measurable. In other words, it was a fact. I could measure the outcome. Most of what I was receiving was theoretical in nature. It was just conceptual. Could be, could not be, who would know? Who would know? But here was a statement, you will make of this a book. And I thought, well, of course, there's not a publisher in the world who's going to accept my handwritten notes. I mean, I could just imagine a publisher going out onto the workroom floor saying to his editors, hold the presses. I've got a guy here who's talking to God. No, it's not going to happen. Nobody's going to publish that book. But as it turned out, a small publisher on the East Coast of America did decide to publish the book. And it sold many, many, many copies. It wound up being translated, as you mentioned, into 37 languages. And so I wound up somehow being known, around the world because of this experience. In the meantime, I was continuing to have the experience. My conversation did not stop there, so I continued to keep notes on my yellow legal pad, and then other books emerged from that process. And that's when I realized that this message was never meant for me alone. It was meant for me to share with the world, and whoever, might benefit from it would be drawn to it. And so I've allowed the dialogue to be published, and that's my story.
Thank you for sharing. I have one question. I would like to go back again because you lived over 1 year on the street, right? And did you had any experience in this time which was not bad? Maybe you had a feeling like, yeah, I'm fulfilled because sometimes if you have nothing, you are more fulfilled than you have everything material.
Well, I had both kinds of experiences, as you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine. I did have that experience of having no responsibility and nothing that I had to worry about, nobody who wanted anything from me or needed anything from me. But it was kind of an illusion in a way because I also had no way to eat. I mean, when I would wake up in the morning, I wouldn't know if I was going to eat that day. Excuse me. I had no way of knowing whether I'd even have any money to buy food. I had to walk the streets and put my hand out and ask people, please, if you have even a few coins, maybe even a little folding money, some paper money, then I could have maybe a hamburger or some French fries or something to eat. So many days I did not have any food to eat, and I would go through the trash, go through the garbage bins around the city to see if anybody maybe threw away a half-eaten sandwich or some potato chips that they didn't want to finish or whatever. And so I had, and of course I also had no protection from the weather. I was living in a tent. I did have a tent, so I didn't have to stay in the rain. But the tent doesn't hold out the cold, and so it was very cold and during the winter, and I was there for the entire winter. So I had to sleep, in a sleeping bag and sit in the cold tent, and then get outside and see if I could maybe get a few pennies, a little bit of money to eat that day. So it would be probably not accurate to say that I had a wonderful time. But did I have some days when I thought, well, at least I don't have any obligations. I don't have anybody that is asking anything from me. So there was a certain freedom in that. That's true, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you
Yeah.
want to have, take a little test, do it not for a year, but do it for just one weekend. Leave your house on Friday morning. Don't wash your hair. Wear some clothes that you've been wearing for 3 weeks so you don't smell so good. And then step outside without a penny. Don't take any money with you at all. And then stay outside until Monday evening for 4 days, just for a weekend. Forget about doing it for a year. Just do it for a weekend. And then tell me when you come back on Tuesday morning whether you had fun.
Right. Did you ever had contact again with the people you met on the street?
No, I couldn't find them. I tried to locate some of them. It was very, very difficult. They had all scattered, of course. And so I couldn't find the people that I had contact with. I did find one, actually, at a food store. I was going to a food store. At that point, I did have a little part-time job. I wasn't making a great deal of money, but at least I could buy a little bit of food. And I had gone to a food store, and there was one person who was still living outside, but he didn't even recognize me. He had been drinking so much, not just that day, but in his life, that it affected his mind. And I remember walking up to him. I had a little folding money of my own, and I was going to offer it to him, and I did give it to him. But he looked at me as if I was a total stranger, even though we had spent a year together,
Wow.
in a homeless park. But he didn't know who I was. And I said, it's me, Neale. No, he didn't recognize me. Then I knew he was really long gone, and he was just surviving. So I gave him a little bit of folding money, hoping that he would at least know how to use it, and that he could go into the store and buy something for himself. He's the only person I ever met again.
Okay. And today, if you've seen people on the street, how is that feeling
Well, of
for
course,
you?
I always make sure that I have some folding money to offer to anybody who I see on the street. And of course, naturally, if I pass someone on the sidewalk, I offer them what I have. And naturally, it brings back my memories of the time that I lived that way. So it's, I try to talk with them. Sometimes I may just spend a moment or two and have a conversation with them and tell them that I know what they're going through and that I have been there and done that. And so I try to at least give them some encouragement.
Yeah. Um, I would like to ask, a few years ago, you were on a stage in an interview with Eckhart Tolle on the topic, do you only understand it or do you live it? And I still celebrate your pure honesty to this day. From today's point of view, you would say that you are always connected with the source, or do you feel sometimes disconnected with the divine?
Well, I am connected with the divine right now, simply looking at you on my computer screen, because if you are not an expression of the divine, then I don't know who is.
Mm-hmm.
But the answer is no. I don't feel that I'm always connected with the divine. I feel that I have a long way to go to become what anyone would call, a master or even a good student at spiritual evolution. But I continue remaining committed to the process, and I know that there is a divine presence in the universe, and so I allow myself to experience that in whatever way feels natural and true to me on any given day.
Wonderful. In your new book, The God Solution, you draw attention to the great imbalance in the world. You report on many unhappy people, and that also society sees itself as an advanced civilization. What does true social success mean to you?
Social success, wow. I don't even think in those terms. I don't think about social success. Spiritual success is all that's important to me. And what that looks like is being nice, being kind, being gentle, being caring, being forgiving, being understanding, being available to be present for others when they're having a challenge or difficulty, and being loving, accepting, unconditionally loving. Those are my goals, my life goals, and that's what I call success in life. I'm not concerned with social success. I don't even think about it in those terms. Probably people who know me would say I'm not really very good at being in social situations. I'm not good at parties, which is why I don't go to parties very often, only when I absolutely have to. I'm not good in groups or crowds. I'm pretty quiet. I don't socialize. You might even call me, some people have called me a social misfit, which means I don't really do well with groups. But it's okay with me. You see, that's what's interesting. It's okay with me. I'm not trying to achieve social success at any level. So, I don't think in those terms. What I think about at my age is, have I finally managed to become a nice person? most of the time. Because when I was younger, I was not a nice person. I mean, I didn't do crimes. I didn't beat anybody up or steal anybody's money, but I was not an easy person to be with. I was difficult, challenging, always needed to be right, not someone that you could have a friendly conversation with for very long unless you agreed with everything I was saying. This conversation I'm having with you is going very well because you're not disagreeing with me, and you better not. But I'm having an interesting life here in the last 25 years since my conversations with God. It's changed my whole priority, changed my whole idea of why I'm alive.
Okay. My next question, I think it's also a little bit about society. We will see. We live in a world in which we are currently very much concerned with how we want to shape the world anew. And in my opinion, we are facing a change in values. How can we manifest something that is not at the expense, but for the benefit of our fellow human beings? How can we manage to create communal manifestations that serve the common good?
I think that the fastest way and the most powerful way is by creating an example, by living as an exemplar. In English, we call that an exemplar, a person who models the behavior that he would like to see everyone embrace. Gandhi put it perfectly. He said, "Be the change you wish to see." And it was a remarkable statement that Gandhi made. And I think that is really the way we're going to have to do it. It's a long way because, I'd like to be able to say, oh, just start an organization and have 5 million members, and then pass a law or whatever. But there's no easy way to do what you're talking about, no fast way. But there is a way. People have changed the world and made it a better place by being a living example of how they would like to see most people behave. So I hope that I can provide a little bit of that inspiration for others. And I would invite other people to look at their own way of moving through the world. Am I demonstrating to the world how I would like the world to be?
Yes.
I often ask a question of my audiences when I'm doing lectures and little programs or interviews. I invite people to consider the following question. If everyone in the world had your thoughts and spoke your words and did tomorrow what you have done today, would that be okay with you? Would the
Very
world
good question.
would the world be a better place? And I hope that I can speak and act and think in ways that if the world imitated me tomorrow, it would be at least a little bit of a better place than it is today. I'm not a saint, of course. I don't do everything in the way I wish I could, but I think I'm closer than I was 25 years ago.
Wonderful words. In German, you say Vorbild. And I know you can speak a little bit German, right?
Klein. Sehr
Klein
klein.
bisschen. Perfect. In another book of you said 98% of the world's people are spending 98% of their time on things that don't matter, on things that have nothing to do with who we really are and why we are really here. I feel as a society, we are under mass hypnosis. That's a feeling for me. We learned we live to work, and then we developed the strategy. Then I want to work what I enjoy. But we still follow the pattern that that I live to work, right? And in it, I perceive sometimes heaviness. Many people divide their lifetime into working hours and into free time. What can be changed in this?
Well, not much, as long as the world's economy is operating the way it is. What we can change is our internal experience of it. We can decide that whatever we're doing for a living, that there is some service for another. It must be serving another in some way, or we wouldn't be getting paid for it. No matter how little you make or how much money you make, every job in the world really is a form of service for someone. So if we see what we are doing as a form of service, then we will feel better about it, no matter what it is. And until the global economy changes, and we don't require people to do things that they don't like to do just to survive, until that changes, we're going to have to find a way to use our free time in a way that allows us to connect with who we really are and why we're really here on earth, what our purpose is in life, and then take that idea into our place of work when we go to work every day and see if we can find a way to use our work, to use our job as a means of demonstrating the biggest choices we have made in our life about who we are and why we're on the planet. People who do that, by the way, often advance in their work because their bosses see that they're a most unusual and very helpful person. And often they become, after a while, bosses themselves because they get promoted and promoted and promoted because of the way they are doing and the way they are acting when they're at their work.
Yeah, wonderful. How do we as humanity come into a more conscious being? What means the embodiment of true presence for you?
I think it's about desire and commitment. There are no methods, no process that's one more important than the other. Some people pray, some people meditate, some people use guided imagery, some people use yoga. You know, there are many, many, many ways to move into the kind of space, mental space, where we feel connected with the divine and more aware of our true identity. But there's no one way, there's no best way. But I can tell you that what generates our discovery of the best way for us, for some it might just be reading books, reading good books, books on how to achieve spiritual progress. But the most powerful way that I know to generate those tools to find out what works for us is desire. Desire is the father of creation. And so if we truly desire to find a way to demonstrate the highest version of ourselves, if that's our true and honest and authentic desire, we will find that way. It will arise for us in our own experience, and it can be life-changing. But desire is the first step toward anything.
Wonderful.
It's how we create even new life. Babies are born because people desire each other. If people didn't desire each other, there wouldn't even be any babies. So desire is the beginning of everything.
Wonderful. As I understand it, everything in life is an expression of God, and on a spiritual level, there are neither victims or perpetrators or different levels of consideration. From the human point of view, we are, of course, in compassion for the victim, and we acknowledge the suffering and pain of the victim, just to make it clear. Can you please explain to the audience how you understand the human victim perpetrator principle in your eyes?
I see that all things that occur on a spiritual level for purposes that allow us to demonstrate, excuse me,
That's fine.
to demonstrate, for purposes that allow us to demonstrate our true identity. When I consider questions like the one you just asked me, I think of the stories I've heard as a child about Jesus. And I asked God, was Jesus a victim? Was he victimized? And I have been told, no. He allowed what happened to happen. He allowed it to occur. And he did it consciously, deliberately, so that he could then use those events to demonstrate his true identity. Well, people would say, well, but that's a bad example, Neale, because he was, the Son of God, but the average person can't behave that way. And I would admit that Jesus was certainly a spiritually advanced being, but he also was the one who said about himself, he said to the world, why are you so amazed? These things and more shall you do also. So my answer to your question then is, I know that from a human point of view, people can be victimized, of course. No one would deny that. No one would deny the victimization of children, the victimization of people really everywhere in the world, of every age. People of color, people of certain religions, people with certain political points of view, people with certain economic status. People have been victimized across human history, and they are still being victimized in this very moment. No one would deny that. But it is possible for us to not experience internally, to not personally experience ourselves being victimized, if we simply use what is occurring in our life as a tool with which to demonstrate who we really are, with which to express and experience our true identity. Let me give you one example. A few years ago, there was a man named Nelson Mandela. And Nelson Mandela was thrown into prison in Africa for 27 years. And they had him in a small, for a few of those years, a small, tiny jail cell. And they couldn't even walk around in. It was just a tiny little one-person cage. But he lived in jail for 27 years.
Right.
But do you know what happened when they finally let him go free? His guards, his jailers wept because they said they had lost their best friend. You know what he was doing for those 27 years? The guards and the jailers were coming to him for advice, asking him about questions about their life, about their marriage, about their relationship, about their work, about their health, because they knew he was a very wise man. And they would come to him in his jail cell, or maybe stand outside of the bars, and for a long time, many minutes, sometimes an hour, and ask him questions. And he would gently and sweetly and kindly give them advice and give them answers and give them his human, unconditional love. And when, after 27 years, he was released from prison, as I said, his jailers, his guards wept. They said, we just lost our best friend. Here was a man who found a way to use the worst of circumstances and to allow himself to experience the best of who he was. So when we use the worst to express the best, that's when we have transformed our experience of life and become a master of our own destiny.
Yes, thank you.
I could be wrong about that, of course, but I don't think so.
Yeah, it's the same when we go back in your life, yes. You had a very hard time on the street, but maybe this time you felt like a victim, but then it changed because it was your maybe biggest present when you look afterwards.
There's no doubt about it. It's one of the best things that could ever have happened to me. I learned more about life, about human nature, and about myself than I could possibly have learned in any college or any university or in any other way in my life.
Wonderful. What do you think? How can we restore dignity to the poor? Is it possible?
By treating them with dignity. It's as simple as that. I hate to give a simple answer, but we restore dignity by treating them with dignity and giving them back the dignity that has been taken from them. You know, and so we treat them with dignity, treat them like royalty. If you have a little money you can spare, give them what you can spare. If you have some time that you can spare, give them whatever time you can spare. If you have a little bit of love that you can spare, give them a little bit of love. Even just talk with them. If you see one sitting on the sidewalk, leaning up against a building with a little hat out in front of them, hoping to collect a few coins, maybe sit down for a half hour and just talk to them. Let them feel that they had a little bit of human company that day and that they're not totally, completely, and absolutely alone. Treat them with dignity. Treat them as if they were royalty.
Yeah. You said changing belief is not something that humans beings do easily and quickly. We hold onto our old beliefs from our parents, and so much. How can we change that?
By changing it. How can you change your clothes? By changing your clothes. How can you change your diet? By changing your diet. How can you change your beliefs? By changing your beliefs. By simply deciding to change what you believe. But what could cause you to change what you believe? By simply looking at the results that those beliefs have produced in your life and in the world at large. If the results have been great, and your life is terrific, and you consider that the world is terrific, nothing wrong with the world, our beliefs are doing really well for us, then don't bother changing your beliefs. But if you notice that the world is not functioning in the way that we all wish that it would, if you notice that there is too much cruelty, too much anger, way too much violence, too much sadness, too much poverty, if you notice that there is too much of what you do not admire or wish for, then you may want to look at both your beliefs and the beliefs of others in the world and just ask yourself, is this working? Or is it possible, just possible, that there's something I don't fully understand here, the understanding of which would change everything? Is it possible that there's something I don't understand about God? Something I don't fully understand about life and how it works? Is it possible that there's something I don't even understand about myself, about who I am and why I'm here on this planet? If you think the answer is yes, then begin looking at your beliefs and at what you do understand and see if that's working for you. And if it's not working, that would be your motivation to changing your beliefs. Like women change their clothes before they go out. You know, I watch my wife. This is lots of fun. She puts on an entire outfit, right down to the earrings and the necklace and the jewelry and the blouse and the skirt. And we get almost to the door, almost get to the door on our way out. But she catches a look at herself in the mirror. She says, "No, I don't think so." Takes off the earrings and puts on something, because it doesn't feel to her the way she wants to feel. It just doesn't feel right. And she can't even explain it because women can't explain anything.
Oh, come on.
Just having fun, just having fun.
I know.
But she really can't explain. It just doesn't feel right. So if you're looking at the world, if you're looking at your own life, and it doesn't feel right, that would be a signal to me. Maybe I need to change my beliefs. But speaking about women who can't explain anything, I found a bottle in the attic about 3 weeks ago. It was a bottle, and I opened it up. Must have been in the attic from the other house before I even owned the house. Maybe the other people left it there. It was there for many years, pretty clearly. But I opened the bottle, and a genie came out of the bottle. And he said, "I am the genie of the bottle. You may wish for anything you want to wish for, and I will grant you your wish. What do you wish?" And I said, "Well, I would like a highway to Hawaii because I don't like flying. I don't like being on airplanes. Frankly, I'm scared of airplanes. I can't go by boat because I get seasick, terribly seasick. But if you could make a highway to Hawaii, then I could just drive there. And I could finally visit Hawaii." And the genie said, "You are asking for something very difficult. It would require tons of concrete, incredible amounts of metal. We could think of something else." I said, "Well, okay. Tell me how a woman thinks." And the genie said, "Would you like 2 lanes on that highway or 3?
Could be. That's a good one. Wonderful. Yeah, women sometimes are like this. Really true. Okay, what do I have? That's funny. You like that.
Yeah. Well, that's
But
one of
really,
my
yeah,
favorite jokes.
yeah. I really understand your wife.
I will tell you that my experience in my life and conversations with God also told me we'd be much better off in the world if women were in charge of everything. Seriously, with no joking, ladies have a level of inner wisdom, inner caring, compassion, understanding. that many men, myself included, could not possibly duplicate. When I want really good advice in any life situation, I go to my wife. Of course, because she is where the wisdom in the house resides. And I'm very clear about that.
Wonderful. She's like God, you know? And-
Well, she's maybe not like God, but she's like an angel. She's one of God's angels for sure.
No. She will love to hear that.
Oh, she hears it only 5 times a day.
Oh, okay. So you have a really good relationship.
Yes, I have an angel for a wife. We've been together now 13 years,
Wow.
and she's the best thing that ever happened to me. She's 30 years younger than I am. She's probably your age, and but she's the best thing that ever happened to me.
Wonderful.
Very wise young lady.
Yeah. You have a wonderful family. I know you have 9 kids, right?
Yes, I have 9 children. That is correct, including triplets.
Wow. How is it to have triplets?
Fascinating. It's been a fascinating experience. You know, when they were very, very young, I could not tell them apart. They looked so much alike. 2 of them especially. 2 of them were identical twins.
Wow.
And I couldn't tell them apart. We had to dress them in different clothes so I could tell who was who.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but yes, I've had 9 children. I've been blessed with 9 children. And it's been a glorious experience.
Wonderful.
9 children, 7 wives. Not at the same time, of course, one after the other.
Yeah. That's a lot of work.
Yes, that's how you get 9 children, a lot of work. So I've had a very interesting life.
And you have it right now, or?
A little more calm than it used to be, but still very interesting.
Wonderful. I have some other questions. In my understanding, we come back to Jesus. Jesus was incarnated as a human being to show people what is possible when we stand in our full presence and awareness. What do you think about that?
I think that's correct. I do think that Jesus is and was the Son of God, just as he proclaimed himself to be. It's okay. I'll be dead before the interview is over.
Yeah, Corona could be sometimes hard.
Yeah. I do think. I think Jesus is and was the Son of God, just as he proclaimed himself to be. And I believe that all of us receive the same inheritance and the same opportunity to demonstrate divinity in our daily lives. And I think that Jesus came to offer us that demonstration, to prove to us that being loving, unconditionally loving, being kind, being forgiving, being divine is possible for everyone. So I don't think that he came to earth to say, look at how much better I am. I think he came to earth to say, look at how extraordinary all of you can be.
Yeah. Same with Nelson Mandela, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same with Nelson Mandela. And there have been many other people as well
Yeah.
who have demonstrated such extraordinary abilities. Mother Teresa,
Right.
another wonderful example. And
Yeah, there are a lot more. I feel that many people or most people misinterpret love. What does unconditional love or pure love mean to you?
pure love means to me the way Nadine loves people without needing anything in return. Pure love is a love that says, I need nothing. I don't need to get anything from you in order to love you. I have no requirements. I have no commands, no demands. The joy of love is experienced by me. This is what Nadine says. The joy of love is experienced by me in the giving of it. If I only give love in order to get it back, then I'm not really loving anybody else. I'm just loving somebody. I'm loving myself through everybody else. But that's not real love. So pure love, the way God loves us, is without any commandments, any requirements, any needs, any requests. That the joy of loving is experienced in the giving of it. You know, like when you hold a baby in your arms. You don't need anything from the baby to get back. You know, maybe you go to a friend's house and they just had a little baby and the baby is 9 weeks old. And you say, oh, could I hold the baby? They say, sure. And they let you hold the baby for a few moments. You hold that baby in your arms and you realize, I don't need anything from this baby. I just love the baby purely, with no expectation, no requirement, simply because it's so joyful to love that baby. Some people love their pets in the same way. They love their dogs or they love their cats, or maybe they have a horse that they love. And some people actually, it's not usual, not normal, but some people actually love other people in the same way without needing anything in return. That's how Nadine loves people, I've been told.
Wonderful. What about you?
No, I haven't learned how to do that yet completely. I'm better than I was, when I was younger. I was not good when I was younger, not good at all, which is why I had 6 failed marriages, because, I demanded or commanded or certainly expected certain things in return. But as I've gotten older, I've learned a little bit. There's an old saying in my life: so old, so soon, so smart, so late. So no, I'm not doing as good as Nadine. But at least I know where I'm going. And that's better than when I was younger. I had no idea when I was younger what I was doing. I didn't even know what I was trying to do. I thought I was just trying to, get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the house, get the raise, get the promotion, get the better job, get the better car, get the better house, get the better wife, get the better wife, get the better wife, whatever. I had no idea what I was doing here. So at least now that I'm old and gray and white hair and, at least now I know where I'm going. So I'm doing better than I was before.
And I can tell you, I'm also a long-term student. Same.
Yeah, look how old you are. I see how old you are. Oh my gosh. You're terribly old.
Yes, I am. I have also some gray hair, but you don't see it.
Okay.
A short sentence from you. What means fear?
Feeling excited and ready. F-E-A-R. Feeling excited and ready. It's what I felt when I was 7 years old at the carnival, getting ready to go on the roller coaster. Mm-hmm. You know, I was afraid, but I wasn't afraid. But I was afraid, but I wasn't afraid. I wanted to go on the roller coaster, but I didn't want to. But I did want to, but I didn't want to. It was, so I was feeling excited and ready. Mm-hmm. So I think that fear is a demonstration of love. It's often not useful, and I invite people to substitute caution for fear, because caution and fear are not the same thing. But I mean, I use caution when I cross the intersection in Times Square in New York City. I promise you that I use caution. Or when I'm crossing the street in Berlin, where I've been many times. So I promise you I use caution. But I don't use fear. Mm-hmm. So fear is an expression of love. Mm-hmm. Because if you didn't love anything, you would fear nothing.
Sure.
If you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't fear losing your life. If you didn't love your phone, you wouldn't be afraid of having someone take it. If you didn't love anything, you would fear nothing. So when you express fear of something, you are simply announcing what it is that you love. Mm. Something you either can't have and can't find a way of getting, or something that you do have and you're afraid of losing. Mm. So fear is an announcement of what you love. Mm-hmm. But if you're not careful, fear can stop you and overtake you, and make it impossible for you to experience what you really wish to experience. So the opportunity is to set fear aside and to let yourself simply step into fearlessness.
Mm. Yeah, I love the sentence. I really love it. Mm.
Yeah, you asked for a sentence and I gave you it's 34 paragraphs.
That's fine. I like it. I really like to talk to you. So that's fine. My very last question, second last question. What is so special with the new book, The God Solution, for you?
The fact that it offers a brand new definition of God that not a single religion on earth that I know of can embrace. There are 4,300 religions on the earth right now. Wow. I didn't make that number up. You can Google that number. It's an actual statistic. Mm-hmm. There are 4,300 religions on earth right now. None of them can agree with each other on the fundamental, basic understanding of who and what God is, what God wants, what God requires or demands, what God does if you don't meet God's demands, how we can use God. There's very little agreement. Even the world's religions can't agree with each other. So what's exciting and special for me in what I call the God solution is that we are given a clear, new definition of God that is so simple and so easy to understand that maybe the world's religions could actually embrace it, and then we could create a new global ethical standard. Because right now we're imitating the God that we think is judgmental and condemning and punishing. and we act that way with each other. But if we had a new idea of God, we could have a new person, a new entity to imitate. We could imitate the God that we have newly defined. And that would create a new ethical standard for our political, our economic, our social, and our spiritual interactions. So I'm suggesting that we, in fact, define God as, to use the phrase you used earlier, pure love. What if we just decided that God, in fact, was pure love and does not judge or condemn us ever for anything? That's spiritually revolutionary. Most of the world's religions would say, no, you can't tell people that. People have to be afraid of God. People have to be afraid of going to hell. You can't say something like that. But because we have used fear of God as the driver of human behavior, we have used fear of each other in the same way. So leaders of nations talk to other leaders of nations about how big their missiles are, how big their army is, how the other person better watch out, or we will make you sad, or whatever. And people in business use fear to deal with other businesses. People in different races use fear to deal with people of other races. We have been using fear on this planet as a means of creating and controlling behavior in other people. Because that's what we think that God does. Oh, well, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for me. God uses fear as a means of controlling my behavior, so why shouldn't I do the same thing with others? So if we had a new definition of God, we would create a new ethical standard for human behavior. That's what excites me about the God solution. And it explains how that could work in real life, as well as the second half of the book describes how we can use the higher power, how we can use metaphysics as a tool with which to create at last the collective reality for which we all yearn.
Have you also channeled this book?
No, it's not. I didn't channel any of my books. I wouldn't use the word channeling.
Yeah, maybe another word.
To describe any of my books. Because channeling is when we think we brought through, in physical sense, another entity. I have not been channeling God. But have I been inspired by God? Like Mozart was inspired to write his music? Like Abraham Lincoln was inspired to write the Gettysburg Address, in which he spoke of the better angels of our nature? Like many people have been inspired in life, like Michelangelo was inspired to paint the awesome painting on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel in Rome. Was I inspired by God? Absolutely.
Wonderful. Yeah, I really love the book.
I'm glad. Thank you for telling me that, and your check is in the mail.
Thank you. Yes, but it's a really, really wonderful book. Yeah.
I'm glad you feel that way. Thank you for saying that.
Yes. My very last question. If you have a wish for the earth, what would it be? Or for the humanity do you want?
I wish that humanity would understand who we really are. That we are each actually individuations of divinity. And I wish that humanity would understand clearly the agenda of the soul, why we're here on the earth. I wish that humanity would finally understand we're not here to get the car, get the job, get the guy, get the girl, get the house, get the better job, get the office in the corner with your name on the door, get the building on the corner with your name on the building, get all the stuff we want to get. My wish for humanity is that we would all finally understand the agenda of the soul is to express and experience our true identity and to grow into the most magnificent manifestation of divinity that you can accomplish in any given moment. God said something interesting to me. Nadine, she said, when I asked her, what is the one secret of life that would really benefit me the most? And I can remember her answer because she was just chuckling. I remember just hearing this chuckle, like we would, not derisively, not shaming me, but the kind of chuckle we would have for a 3-year-old asking, how many stars are in the sky? And we would just kind of chuckle at the innocence of the question. But I remember what he said. He said, Neale, it's really very simple. You think your life is about you. And your life has nothing to do with you. Your life is about everyone whose life you touch and the way in which you touch it. And when you understand that, and when you live your life according to that clarity and with that understanding, everything will change. And it turns out, in the most wonderful way, that your life is about you by putting other people's needs, desires, requests first. That doesn't mean you let people walk all over you. It doesn't mean you let people control you, because that wouldn't serve them either. That would merely teach them the wrong thing, that they can behave that way and get away with it. So you don't want to teach people that. But you do want to make sure that when you're interacting with another, your first thought is this. I have a thought, Nadine, that I say to myself.
Yeah. Say it to me.
Yeah, I don't say it out loud to people when I'm encountering them, but I say it in my mind. If I said it out loud, they probably would not understand. So I say it in my mind. When I meet a new person, I say in my mind, your life will be made better for my having passed through it this day. I promise you.
War das ein schönes Interview mit Neale Donald Walsch. Ich kann es immer noch nicht glauben, dass es zu diesem Interview überhaupt gekommen ist, und mich hat dieses Interview sehr berührt. Mir sind danach erstmal echt die Tränen gelaufen. Gerade auch, weil ich zumindest spüre, dass in der Tiefe, wie viel Demut er in sich trägt, wie viel Liebe in sich trägt. Und das ist einer dieser wenigen Menschen, die so erfolgreich sind weltweit, aber eben nicht ihr Ego raushängen lassen, sondern aus dieser Demut heraus eben agieren. Und das fasziniert mich sehr an Neale, und ich hoffe, das Interview hat auch dich inspiriert, und wenn es dir gefallen hat, dann freue ich mich wie immer, wenn du es teilst mit deinen Freunden, mit deiner Familie, mit deinen Liebsten. Ich werde alles an Büchern, vor allen Dingen sein neues Buch, The God Solution, genauso auch Gespräche mit Gott, seine Website und so weiter, werde ich in den Shownotes verlinken. Und ja, du kannst dich freuen auf viele weitere Interviews, die jetzt anstehen werden. Nächste Woche kommt ein weiteres Interview mit einem auch wieder ganz anderen, aber ganz wundervollen Gast. Und ich danke dir sehr, dass du dir die Zeit genommen hast, dieses Interview zusammen mit Neale und mir zu lauschen. Und ja, ich wünsche dir eine schöne Zeit. Lass es dir gut gehen und fühl dich umarmt.
And I appreciate the chance to talk to your audience. So thank you for all of that. We can do it again sometime.
Yes, and then we do it in German, right?
Ja, sehr gut, mein Freund.
Perfect.